Suspending immigration for at least 60 days, US President Donald Trump says he'll be signing an executive order that will only concern those hoping to move permanently and not temporary workers. Brazil's Supreme Court wants to investigate a protest against lockdown measures in the country. President Jair Bolsonaro was part of the demonstration that called on the army to intervene and control the response to COVID-19 there. And clinical trials of a vaccine for COVID-19 set to begin on healthy volunteers in the United Kingdom. One of a number of trials being launched. We'll be finding out more about that and what scientists have learned so far when it comes to the body's immune response to this new virus. Hello and a very warm welcome to you. I'm Eve Irvine. Glad you could join us. Temporarily suspending immigration to the United States, planning to sign an executive order on the issue this Wednesday, Donald Trump says the measure will only apply to those seeking permanent residence and not to temporary workers. It's a bid to protect the economy, Trump says, from the impact of COVID-19. The United States has just recorded its deadliest day in the fight against the new virus, with 2,700 people dying from the infection in the last 24 hours. Erin Ogunki takes a look at what Trump's statement on migration will actually change.
7 months ahead of the presidential election, Donald Trump accused of using the coronavirus pandemic to fire up his base amid growing criticisms of his administration's response. On Tuesday, the U.S. president announced a forthcoming executive order that will temporarily suspend immigration to the United States.
By pausing immigration, we'll help put unemployed Americans first in line for jobs as America reopens. So important. It would be wrong and unjust for Americans laid off by the virus to be replaced with new immigrant labor flown in from abroad.
Some 22 million Americans, or nearly 14% of the country's labor force, have filed for unemployment in recent weeks due to the coronavirus pandemic. But the devil is in the details. Tuesday's shock announcement diluted, if not contradicted, by a major exception. The provisional suspension, set to last 60 days, will not affect temporary workers. It will only apply to immigrants seeking permanent residency through green cards, many of which were already on hold because of coronavirus restrictions. Critics say the ban is nothing more than smoke and mirrors.
We need to make sure nobody is left behind. And when it comes to immigration, immigrants are not the threat to America. COVID-19 is.
Many of the industries mobilized in the response to coronavirus rely on immigrant labor, a reality the Trump administration implicitly acknowledged prior to Tuesday's announcement. Concerned the food supply chain could be hit hard by the pandemic without foreign employees, U.S. officials relaxed immigration requirements for certain jobs, including agricultural work and landscaping, in recent weeks.
The Supreme Court in Brazil is calling for an investigation into a rally against confinement measures that was held outside the army headquarters. At the weekend, President Jair Bolsonaro was one of the participants. The protests are in fact ongoing, and they call for the army to intervene in the country's response to COVID-19. From Brazil, Anna Kaiser brings us the latest.
In recent weeks in Brazil, there have been several small protests calling for military intervention and to dissolve Congress and the Supreme Court. They're calling for actions similar to what happened in a 1964 military coup, which led to over 20 years of dictatorship. These calls were repeated today in Rio de Janeiro in front of the regional military headquarters.
Como ex-militar que sou também, eu sou favorável a entrar lá e exterminar aqueles vermes do Congresso, inclusive o STF. Chegar lá, por mim, eu pendurava eles aqui em praça pública. Seria uma ditadura, seria uma coisa, mas temporariamente.
O governador do Rio está fazendo o povo ficar em casa e não está indo trabalhar, porque todos querem trabalhar. Se nós estamos aqui, podemos trabalhar. Deixa só as pessoas vulneráveis, as pessoas de idade, em casa. Agora o povo quer trabalhar, senão vai morrer de fome.
President Jair Bolsonaro, a former army captain and admirer of the dictatorship, joined the protesters over the weekend and said he supported them. But Bolsonaro has since moderated his tone. He said that democratic institutions are not at risk. But at the same press conference, he caused controversy when he claimed,
Eu sou realmente a Constituição. Isso.
Brazil's military leaders deny there's any risk of